Now you've been going throughout New Hampshire talking to people. What are some of the biggest issues on people's minds?
Well, this morning as we asked people, what can government either do to you or for you, what can government do better, quite a few tables said, they'd like to see people brought home, they'd like to see more turnover in office. And so I reminded the voters that we met this morning that was the first bill I signed on to in Washington was term limits. And I've always thought term limits would be a great idea, that there's no monopoly of knowledge in Washington, that once you've met these folks, I think there are a lot of people at home who could do just as good a job or better. And if we had more turnover in office, that maybe some things would finally get better.
I also heard people asking questions about foreign policy, particularly some questions about ISIS and whether or not we should have boots on the ground there. What was your response?
I think the people here were very sympathetic to my response that ultimately the war will be won by the people who live there. And if the war is seen to be won by Americans, with American soldiers stationed in Sunni cities in Iraq, that there'll never be a victory from that. The people have to see the victory being someone who lives in their town is the next leader, not an American garrison there. And it didn't work with Shiite garrisons either. So when you had an entirely sectarian Baghdad government, it wasn't accepted by the Sunni population. So every one of those cities are Sunni cities that ISIS occupies. Ultimately, the Sunni citizens in those cities have to be part of the resistance, and they have to be part of taking it over. It's not as simple as militarily the U.S. can do it. Sure we can. But will that be an ultimate peace, or will they slither off into the underground and come back in another form? So I think we have to have a longer-term strategy, and really it has to be that we have to try to convince our allies over there not to foment and exacerbate the problem. I think Saudi Arabia has exacerbated the problem. I think Turkey has exacerbated the problem. I think Qatar has exacerbated the problem. So what we really need to do is make the decision that toppling Assad is not necessarily something that's going to make the region more stable. In fact, I think toppling Assad actually has led, or trying to topple Assad has actually led to and fostered the rise of ISIS.
So one last question, what should American involvement be?
I think we can amplify our allies over there, but I think the boots on the ground need to be Arab boots on the ground. I'm the one candidate on either side of the aisle that's not going to send Americans back into another war over there. I think the first war in Iraq was a mistake, cost us $1 trillion, and look at the results. The region is more chaotic, less stable, there's more rise of radical Islam. But this is a key part of the presidential debate that is just now people beginning to scratch the surface on.